Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a tag video. This is the Burden of Proof tag. It was created by Britta Bowler to celebrate our own Jaclyn from 6 Minutes for Me, who just passed her bar exam in the state of Texas. So congratulations, Jaclyn. I'm very happy for you that you've got that behind you now, and good luck in your new job and in all your future legal endeavors. So good job. And I was tagged by Doris over at Aldi Books to do this tag, and I think it's really interesting and super fun and made me think about some books that I haven't thought about in a long time, so that's great. So let's just get into it. The first question is, and I'm not going to go into the legal things behind them. I will obviously link Britta's original video down below, and she goes into and explains the legal connection behind each of these prompts, and so I'll leave that to her to explain. So the first one is a book in which money plays an important role. And for this one, I chose a book that I really enjoyed called Behold the Dreamers by Mbolo Mbue. And this is a book, it's about the 2008 Great Recession, I guess we're calling it now, but basically the financial crash that happened in 2008. The book takes place, I believe, in New York City, and it follows two immigrants from Cameroon who are in the city and have the husband has taken work as a driver for a stockbroker with one of the big financial companies. And it's all about how his job, it's about his immigration experience, but it's all about how the white family's issues with money are impacting the immigrant's family as well, because the immigrants are depending on the white family for their jobs. And, with this whole financial restructuring, lots of stuff's happening. So I thought that book really connected well with a lot of different themes, but certainly one of the big themes was money. Question 2, a modern classic with a legal twist that everyone should read. And for that, I'm choosing a book that I don't believe I've ever heard anybody talk about on BookTube, and that's Montana 1948 by Larry Watson. This book is, I think, a modern classic. I read it several years ago. It's similar to the classic To Kill a Mockingbird in that we have a child narrator, David, I believe his name is. Yeah, David. In 1948 in Montana, his small town where his dad is the sheriff is rocked when a Sioux woman accuses a local doctor, I believe, of rape. And the sheriff is forced to investigate this horrendous crime, and as he does so, a lot of the underlying racial tensions between the white community and the Native American community are exposed, and there's a whole thing about the rapes and the whole legal case, and the ending has a twist that I was not expecting, and it impacts the legal case. So this is a fantastic book, very evocative of a time and place. I think it's a beautiful book, and I wish more people would read it. Question 3, a book that dazzled you with its complex structure. So for this, I'm choosing The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I believe it's the only Faulkner I've read to date, and it is one of the only books that I can remember reading. I read it through the first time, and then I immediately turned back to page 1 and started through it again, because the complex nature of the narrative, it finally clicked in me after I got a certain ways into the book, and I just had to go back to the beginning and start over and see how everything connected. I just thought it was amazing. And as a person who just read A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, which is stream of consciousness in a lot of places, and hated it, this book, The Sound and the Fury, also has sections that are written in stream of consciousness style, and I loved it. So very complex narrative structure, written from several different points of view from brothers in the same family. One of the brothers is a mentally handicapped person, and you're getting his internal thoughts, and it's it's fascinating. It truly is fascinating, and it talks about the sort of the downfall of this one prominent family in this one town through the eyes of these characters. It's really, really good. And it's tough, but it's worth it. Question 4, a book with an unreliable narrator. I am choosing We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, which is a young adult sort of mystery book. E. Lockhart, I think, is well known for this style of book, but I really found this fascinating. Family that goes to this one place all the time, like for vacation or whatever, and as the book goes on, you're learning the story from this young woman narrator, and you're trying to piece together what actually happened, and it's really good. Question 5, a book with the strong female character, and I picked a book that has multiple strong female characters. You guys know I love this book. This is Women Talking by Miriam Taves. This is just out this year in the United States. I read it last year, and it follows a group of women in a Mennonite community in South America who have been being raped by men in their community, and the whole book is a discussion between these women as they try to figure out how to deal with what has happened, whether they should fight back, whether they should run, whether they should just accept what's happened. It's a discussion of, the women's place in this community, what women put up with in order to stay within a community, and the quiet strengths that women have that aren't always what we think of as strengths, but really are. I think this book is amazing, and everybody should read it. Question 6, a book with a grand set of characters. And I couldn't not pick an epic fantasy book because they always have grand sets of characters. And so I picked the Live Ship Traders trilogy, the first book of which is Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. And this is sort of a fantasy world. We're following a group of shipping magnates, basically, and they have ships that are sentient in some ways, and we're following one particular family, the Vestrit family, as the patriarch of the family passes away, and how the ship in their family gets handed down to the different family members. It starts this whole epic journey, and there's multiple characters, and there's pirates, and there's other types of characters that I don't want to get into because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a fantastic book, a huge cast of characters, many of which are women, many of which are strong women, and I highly recommend it. Question 7, a book that you loved that featured an unlikable character, preferably a professional. So for that, I've chosen State of Wonder by Anne Patchett, and this is a story where a woman who is a researcher in a pharmaceutical company, gets sent down to the Amazon to try to find out what has happened to a couple of other scientists in her company. That a man that is her partner in her research has gone down to check on an older woman who's been in the Amazon for many years, who has been working on developing some medicines, and she's gone missing or hasn't been heard from. So he goes down, and then he goes missing, and so our main character gets sent down to find out what's happened. And when she gets down to the Amazon, she encounters the older woman doctor is Dr. Annick Swenson, and she's sort of our main character, Marina's mentor and role model in the field. And when we get to the Amazon, we find out sort of what the Miss Dr. Swenson's been up to all this time that she's been in the Amazon, and it is not what you expect at all. So Dr. Swenson is completely, I found her to be very unlikable. She's quite cold, she's quite driven, she is not at all interested in making things comfortable for anyone else. She's very focused on her own work and what she's doing. She doesn't really care about any of her colleagues and what they think. She doesn't really care about her company and what they think. And I'm not really sure she cares about the natives that she's working with to try to make her medical discoveries. I think she's a very unlikable character, but very compelling and interesting to read about. And then there's 2 bonus questions, and the first one was really tough. And that was to talk about a South African author that you love. And I realized that I have read very little of South African authors. Doris had talked about Trevor Noah, who's South African, and I love him. And then the only other one that I could come up with is a classic, and that's Alan Paton, Cry the Beloved Country. I read by him, which is all about how the apartheid system and how whites govern in a majority black country, and the racism and the atrocities that are committed through this white government. And this is an amazing book. There's a reason why it's a classic. It's very good, but this prompt made me realize that I need to read more South African authors. And then the last question, or the last bonus question, is a book about animals in an unusual setting. And for that, I'm cheating a little bit and talking about the classic Pet Sematary by Stephen King. And this is all about animals, and the unusual setting is a lot of it takes place in the cemetery, because there's a particular cemetery where if you bury your dead pet, the pet comes back to life. So this book is extremely creepy, and basically I read it when I was a teenager and it freaked me right the hell out, but it stuck with me all these many years, and I think it is really a classic of the genre, and just shows what a heck of a good storyteller Stephen King is. So if you're looking for a book about animals in an unusual setting, I don't think you can get much more unusual than Pet Sematary by Stephen King. So that's it. That's the tag. This was a really fun tag to do, and really made me think about the books on my shelves and some books that I hadn't thought about in a long time. So I very much appreciate the tag, Doris, and thank you to Britta for coming up with this tag. And congratulations again, Jaclyn. I know you'll do great things. I hope everybody's doing well, and I will talk to you later.